Isabell Dassinger, and I'm here today with my co-host, Isaiah Fischbach. And the name of our show is Be Your Own Advocate. And what we try to do with Be Your Own Advocate is bring you information that will help you become more knowledgeable about handling different situations, just information so that you become informed. But as we were talking recently, Isaiah and I, we were talking about how important it is to have the right energy to be your own advocate. And how do you get the right energy in a situation where maybe you feel you have no control, or your own life is being compromised, all different factors that can affect your energy, and how important it is to be able to understand it and to be able to work with it and make it the best it can be. So we were talking back and forth, and one of the things that we did talk about was how movement and how the physicality of energy and how you can raise it and how you can make it stronger and how you can make it more make yourself more conscious of how you can have control and affect your life in different ways and in different situations where you become your own advocate. So, right, Isaiah, that's what we were talking about, and how
Yeah.
important that is. So, Isaiah, since he is the king of mastering the physiological energy and the physical movement on how to make yourself stronger, because you're always talking about strength, I thought that we would just start with that. What do you think?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I like to just explore energy because there's some people hear energy and they get all woo woo and think like, just like dish it right away.
Hmm.
And then other people energy and they think of like working out and being strong and then being able to be energetic. There's a bunch of different associations with it. Um, but sometimes I like to just like really simply start with like a sense of what. Well, first of all, there's many different kinds of energy. So one energy is, hey, I got energy to run and move and play with my kids, and then or I don't. But
Right.
another could be the energetics of the space or energy in general. What is energy and the quality of energy? And I think of like walking into a bar. If you've ever been to a bar in the daytime around noon, you can feel and smell. It is dense and dank, and there's like a real low vibrational energetic quality. Versus you go into the cathedral in the midday, and there's this like resonance and this lightness and this like this resonance. The energy is intact. It has structure. It has coherence, and it's real. At least, and then that is a simple example of how you can feel energy.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and I think that when energy creates opportunity for thought, and thought creates how you feed the energy. And so in understanding how our thoughts, our environment, our surroundings, the people that we have in our lives, how they all affect our emotional and mental energy. And sometimes they can uplift, and sometimes the situation or whatever does not uplift. So what I think is essential in this day and age and just moving forward, and what we can teach our children and friends and family, is how to raise your own energy, how to take your energy and make it the best it can be. Because I always say that you oftentimes you can't change your circumstances, but you can change how you're going to think about them and how you're going to feel about them and how you're going to position them in your head so that they don't overwhelm you, they don't depress you. So, in talking about that, of course, there's meditation and there's affirmations and there are all those positive actions. But sometimes, I think for a lot of people, they don't go there. So where can they go to address and understand their own energy? And I think going physically, that would be a really good first place to start. There is Tai Chi and all these different things that are meant to harmonize the energy and raise the energy, but those two are out of the box kind of applications. So
Mhm.
we talk about breathing, and that's very popular. It's a very popular topic nowadays. Is breath and different ways to breathe, and how breathing brings in energy and like lets go of old energy, and has such a fantastic benefit to the cells, which the cells hold thought, hold energy, uh, and with I'm just kind of seeing a cell in my head, and I'm seeing it, like as a round object, and half of it's filled with useless, not important things anymore, and the other half is like bright and energized. So how do you take the cell, move the toxicity or the negativity out so that the whole cell is healthy? So of
Yeah.
course, there's breath, there's thinking, but I'm sure, have some other things that would be like easy, simple, maybe not simple.
I mean, one thing I think about is not that we lack energy in a lot of situations, it's just tied up. It's
Okay.
locked up in
Yeah.
tissue tension, it's locked up in improper, ineffective thinking and stories and beliefs and all this self limitation.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest way to free our energy is to remove self limitation.
Okay.
Whether so if we're someone who doesn't move a lot, the self limitation is going to be, hey, I got to get moving. I got to turn this engine over,
Mhm.
and then I start to deliver and circulate greater energy. For a lot of people, I think it's emotional. It's the nervous system, your brain, and your energetic highway gets impacted, stressed. There's a traffic jam for a
Mhm.
bunch of different reasons, and primarily it's emotional. And so by addressing our emotional state, and like you said, starting to feel, oh, I can modulate how I feel in response to my environment, this conversation, my boss, my family, my kids.
Yes.
I'm in the driver's seat, even though it feels like I'm at effect and a victim to these situations. So the biggest down presser of energy is probably going to be victimization and feeling like you have no agency in your life. So
Yes.
learning how to recognize that and start to make choices that give you greater access to a less limiting story and to a less limiting narrative around your past, your emotional identity, your family, your history, and what you think is not possible due to that. Feeling into those feelings and starting to circulate what's there emotionally and express what's there verbally is going to be the biggest uplift in energy for most people.
Yeah. You want to get rid of your limiting beliefs, but it's, when you're in a situation where you're essentially oppressed for whatever, it could be financial insecurities, it could be, family members that are, getting older or younger, that you feel like you're not being able to influence in the right way. There's just so many things that can make a person's energy feel oppressed because they feel helpless. They feel like they're a victim. And like you were just saying, victimization is a, I don't know if it's a safe place for people to go to, because then they just don't feel like they have any choice. But I think one of the things that's important in what we want to talk about and being your own advocate is you do have a choice. And the choice is like, how much can you affect your own self? And if and strength, even just talking about strength, I think when you talk about victimization and you feel weakness and controlled, that by having your inner strength rise, however it might be, becoming more educated, becoming stronger, becoming more connected to spirit,
Becoming
however,
more expressed.
what
Becoming more expressed.
expressed, yeah,
Mhm.
in your power. So different pathways to get there that are, I just keep on going back to the physical,
Yeah.
like movement, because and anybody and everybody that works out
Yeah.
always says how great they feel after working out, whether it's releasing the endorphins or doing something positive for yourself. But you've worked with so many people where the emotions get stuck,
Yeah.
where it's stuck in the physical, and that's what gets stuck, and how does it get stuck in the physical when you release it? What are you releasing?
Well, generally, we have instability and disconnection in our body, and then the body forms tension in the opposing tissues to brace and deal with that, right? So we form more and more pockets of tension and adhesion all over our body over time
Mhm.
to deal with the inability to stay, functional in our body. And it's like it's a moving away from. So it's like we've got to recognize where we're locked up and why. Generally, I really believe we could talk about all the movement and exercises in the world, but the baseline is if you're not in alignment with yourself and expressing who you are and what's important to you and your value system, you're going to be highly stressed. Your body's going to lock up, your nervous system's going to trap you, and you're going to feel stuck, you know? And then it takes courage to start to express and move your body and move your energy and run your relationships out of authenticity rather than, an acting, trying to maintain a status or maintain an image that's not really true to us. It's never going to work in relationship over long term, and I think that we know that, but we put up the adrenalized energy to make that happen anyways, because we're trained to, and we think it's the only way to feel successful and met and appreciated by others or whatever. But bottom line, aligning with who we actually are, what's valuable to us, and starting to express and move and drive our life with that as the basis is the primary thing that's going to move energy and get it, starting to finally circulate and enliven you. Because it's right. How else? What other external thing could long-term maintain our energy other than from the inside out?
Mm-hmm. And I think, like,
So,
like you were saying, to express, but I would imagine that expressing it to ourselves, is a great place to start, to become bold, to become, able to express outwardly. I think that, just that positive reinforcement, like what we were saying before about how you can control the way you think,
yeah,
the positive reinforcement of, like I wake up every day. When I wake up, I start the day with gratitude. I always laugh and I think, because I could run out of time before I could run out of things to be grateful for. Small things, big things, people, I can just keep going and looking for things and finding things to be grateful for. So, I think that, if you add to that, if you start with gratitude and feel gratitude for the things you can find that are positive, about yourself, about your life, even in the dire circumstances, that would that be something that would unlock,
a
you know,
million percent.
yeah, so that you can just by doing that. And then I guess if you bring to mind, if you see if you wanted to see the energy as trapped, and then with your mind as you were, being grateful or thinking about positive things or just anything that makes you feel better, if you take that and direct with your mind to that pocket of energy, if you use it almost like, bring light to it, or, however you want to do it. If you think to yourself, okay, I'm going to think all these positive things and I'm going to direct them to my cells, and I want to clear my cells. What do you think? Does that move it?
Definitely. If you're not coming from a place of perfection or some kind of outside like idea, but if you just are willing to just touch what's real and
Huh?
start to build
Oh,
it, then
I like that. That touch what's real.
what's the intention behind what you're doing and the
Yeah.
relationship itself that makes it either real and available and safe to experience or not?
Mhm.
I think what I say is the what did you just say?
Did I say something profound?
You did say something profound. Dang
Oh,
it.
good. Yeah.
Um,
But we're talking about like moving the energy and bringing thought to the
okay.
energy. You got it.
Right, Charles. So gratitude. Gratitude is such a high vibration, right? And I love that you say you start with that because to me, people talk about fear and love being on the opposite ends of the spectrum of human experience, right?
Yeah.
But I've been in love and afraid at the same time. So I don't know that that's true. Fear seems very present in new love experience as well. It comes up. But I'm not grateful and afraid. I've never had that experience.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I tend to think they're polar opposites.
Mhm.
And fear is what's chopping our energy more than anything else as a
Yeah.
protective mechanism in our nervous system, anciently, but also just presently, emotionally. We're afraid to express. We hold energy, we pack tension, we store and suppress. Like it's suppression, right? It's
Yeah.
lack of expression. And
Right.
the energy becomes available, if I'm holding myself really tight versus moving, yeah, it's gonna be totally different energy. The cells are gonna be alive and
Mhm.
so I think gratitude is crucial. Having a mindset and intention is really important.
Mhm.
But ultimately, getting in rapport with yourself, having a friendly relationship with yourself and a friendly conversation inside is really what's going to free up the energy more than anything else. Because you
Yes.
can do all the right stuff, have a really negative internal, dialogue and a negative view of yourself and always measuring up to some kind of standard and stay in fear and trap your energy.
Right, right. And the fear stays there and it just builds. So it can be that's I suppose that's why sometimes it feels insurmountable, the issues and because it builds. And unless you uh, find ways to unlock, like unlock it and let it flow, and however you're going to do that, it is essential because otherwise it'll weigh you down. And even physically, as you get older, you can see a person's body and how they walk and how they move, and you can almost understand a little bit about their life because they're still carrying their griefs and their losses and their regrets and all of that stuff, and just have to find ways, simple ways, even like what we were saying before, like when you like you want to move the energy, and you're going to like look, think about clearing the cells, how like then you add breath, and then when you take a breath, and then when you exhale, but you have to see it, right? You have to use imagery sometimes in order to be able to make the energy move. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes people see it, sometimes people imagine it, you can believe it, whatever it is, you have to add the more senses, maybe that's it. The more senses you add to any action that has to do with releasing energy, the more effective it's going to be. And you can do that in a minute. Every minute counts, a little goes a long way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And physically, it's a force game, I think. So we like to move away from the stored tension, the core emotion, the fear, the protection.
Mhm.
We like to move away from it, but it's an addictive chemical, so it brings us back,
Mm.
right? The victim state is perpetually reinforced by that fear and the chemistry associated with it. And
Yeah.
so, it feels good. It's a familiar suffering, so we can choose it again and again because it's very like, oh, I wish I could do that, but this external thing's blocking me.
Yeah.
Um, as an
You
example,
become more you become more powerful and you get stronger, and in order to move the fear out, you have to become stronger than the fear.
yes.
And you can
And
do that.
yeah,
Go ahead.
when you learn the right technique, the right setting, the right movement practice, whatever, and really the right relationship with yourself, because we run into pressure and tension in the moment of any movement practice, say, and then what do you do with it in the moment? How aware are you? How intentional are you with the internal process as you're doing that? Because if we're shutting ourselves down as we're trying to expand energy through movement, I don't know that it's really going to work long term.
Oh, say that again in a different way.
If just simple, look at I don't know, running. If
Okay.
I'm running, my body wants to run a 3K, and I'm running a 25K because my mind says I need to, or that's going to give me XYZ. But I'm not listening to my body. My body's saying, hey, this is my comfortable limit right now. We can expand and progress, but right now this is what I got. By
Mhm.
not listening to that and honoring that level of true energy in the body, we deplete ourselves.
Yeah, and you defeat yourself because you set your goals too high, and then you don't
Yeah.
meet your goals, and then you feel like, oh, you slide right back down. So
And
setting
we
realistic goals, and also discipline. I think when fear overcomes a body, that discipline becomes out of reach. You know,
Yes.
you're very disciplined. I am not. But I work at it. I am disciplined with certain things. I kind of run in a disciplined way, but
Yeah.
actually setting time, doing things the same way. Like, I was looking at this is a silly thing, but my daughter's drawers, everything's neat and folded and so beautiful. Mine is like just wherever I'll find it, but it's different people. So you have to, I think probably what we're saying too is you have to find what works for you, even if it's something small, but it's something that you do in a more deliberate and regular way,
And I
just
feel like we have to look at the basics too in Chinese medicine and just in lifestyle. It's really about lifestyle. If people talk about energy being, or rather time being the greatest resource, you
time
know,
being the greatest resource. Yeah, isn't that true?
which there's truth there. But then if I'm suffering for the last 20 years of my life, is it really that valuable?
Hmm.
So to me, it's about energy. If you have energy is available for you, your cells, your brain, you're functioning at a high level. That is what we're going for. And that is what allows us to have quality of life, not just quantity of life, you know?
Yeah.
So I think energy is the primary resource, the most important resource that we have access to and that we can focus on developing greater access to. Yeah, it seems like sleep, good nutrition. I mean, it's a huge component. We're not sleeping. Some of us need 6, some need 7, some need 8, but you know what that level is. Usually by now we know how many hours we need ideally. If we're not getting that consistently over time, like I sometimes don't, then you're not in your ideal energy state. And you know it. Your brain's not firing and functioning the way it could. The cells are a little sluggish. The body's detoxing, just not ideal. So sleep is probably the most important. When I look at all of natural health or just health in general, the experts, like across the board, the place they all agree is most important is sleep, pretty much across.
Yeah. And it's hard to get a lot of times. There's different things. There's so many different things that can help a person sleep nowadays. I guess recognition.
Pretty much our whole modern lifestyle hurts sleep. Blue lights, coffee, traffic, stress, over talking. I mean, all of it.
Yeah.
Alcohol, it reduces repair. It's endless. What's our daily habits that are blocking our real recovery. So yeah, during the day, the activities and habits we have during our lifestyle during the day determine our ability to sleep, and then having discipline around that and creating sleep habits that allow that to be really a restful time and reparative time, cleansing time, really.
Cleansing time, and that's a good time when you lay down to sleep, to breathe and focus on your cells and do that 5-minute work before you're not taking time away to do it, but it's a great way to end the day and wake up ready for the next day.
Yeah, so sleep's probably the foundation, but you can exercise all you want, but if you're only sleeping 4 hours a night, it's probably going to run into a wall pretty quick, right? Yeah. So sleep's probably primary. Second to that is nutrition, and then we work our way up. Movement's essential for the body, right?
Yeah.
If we're moving well and we're moving our energy in a way we think is good, but we're eating food that is highly inflammatory and full of sugar and carbs and crap, and our body's in constant inflammation, then again, the cells can't function well. They can't be optimal. There's not going to be energy available. Yeah. And again, we're mining our energy out of our bones, our muscles, our adrenals, kidneys, and this is the tricky thing is like energy. We go to coffee for energy, right? I love a good coffee. It's delicious. Yeah. But I'm not fooled into thinking that coffee is giving me energy, because the world doesn't work that way. The body gives you energy, right? You drink the caffeine, it stimulates the kidneys to release adrenal energy, and then you get that lift, but you're mining your own vital energy.
Yeah. So that's great for, I think, the beginning of what will be a continuing conversation periodically between you and I, and talking about energy and modern day ways of looking at it and achieving it, and positivity, and as well as when we talk to our different guests about what knowledge they bring to different situations, because ultimately the more that commercial, the more so that's a big part of why we have this show, Be Your Own Advocate. And while we continue to give you information that can help you move along to having a better quality of life. So thank you, Isaiah. I look forward to our next conversation. And as a reminder, you need to be your own advocate.